Hi, I'm Brianna, and you're watching Dante's Boxing Nation.
Dante's Boxing Nation, what's going on, guys? So if you guys missed it, I just dropped a video where I was talking about what Oscar De La Hoya, Canelo Alvarez's promoter, what he said about Canelo. He said a year ago that Canelo Alvarez has to face Demetrius Andrade, Jermell Charlo, and Danny Jacobs in order to be considered great. Well, you fast forward to present day, and after Charlo was Canelo's mandatory for almost 2 years, Canelo decides to surrender his WBC belt to Charlo. Now Charlo is the WBC champion and Canelo is no longer the WBC champion. Now when it comes to Demetrius Andrade has been chasing Canelo Alvarez since he was a junior middleweight champion. Well, actually both Charlo and Andrade have been. When Demetrius Andrade was the WBO middleweight champion of the world and Canelo was beltless, meaning he didn't have a belt, the champion was calling out the contender. Demetrius Andrade, he went so far as even calling Canelo Alvarez a bitch, and Canelo never even responded to him. Now, once again, going back to what Canelo's promoter said, Canelo needs to fight Charlo and Andrade. Andrade was a champion with a belt. I have to reiterate the point. Canelo didn't have a belt, and he decided not to fight for a title that was being offered to him, or at least a title shot. But soon as Demetrius Andrade got stripped of the WBO belt, then Canelo, he decided to fight Liam Smith for that same belt. Fast forward to present day, now the Demetrius Andrade and Charlo problem still hasn't gone away for Canelo. In fact, it's gotten worse. The walls are closing in and the pressure is getting close to busting those pipes. DAZN has already given Canelo Alvarez the green light to face Demetrius Andrade, which makes all the sense in the world because they both fight on DAZN, right? Listen, let me put it like this. Canelo will only fight a Demetrius Andrade or a Jermell Charlo if they look extremely vulnerable in a fight. And when I say vulnerable, I mean extremely beatable. I mean, it has to be to where it looks like it's a guarantee win for Canelo. This is exactly what happened in the Danny Jacobs-Darren Yevchenko fight. I had told you guys, I predicted it and it came to fruition. I told you guys in my Jacobs versus Darren Yevchenko post-fight video, because of the way Danny looked in that fight, don't be surprised if Canelo Alvarez calls out Danny Jacobs or fights him next. And that's exactly what happened. This is the same thing that happened with Tim Bradley versus Juan Manuel Marquez. Tim Bradley had been calling out Juan Manuel Marquez for about 2 years. Marquez was avoiding the fight. They even went so far as to say Tim Bradley is a boring fighter. Nobody wants to watch that fight. Knowing that wasn't true, because Tim Bradley was one of the most exciting fighters in boxing. He was aggressive, came forward, even got knocked down sometimes, got back up and kept fighting, right? That's the excuse they use. Typical stuff. But soon as Tim Bradley had a life or death experience with Ruslan Provodnikov, everything T. Marquez said before completely changed. So Marquez, he took the bait, he decided to fight Tim Bradley, and he still lost to him. This is the only way Canelo is going to get in the ring, once again, with a Charlo or Andrade. Now, I already know some of you fans will say, well, Charlo, he did struggle against Matt Korobov. But what you guys have to understand is styles make fights, and Canelo is smart enough to understand this. See, Matt Korobov, his style is the opposite of a Canelo Alvarez. Matt Korobov, he was a southpaw, or he is a southpaw, and he moves around the ring. His defense is with foot movement. It's not head movement or a high guard. His defense is mainly with his foot movement, right? And on top of that, he was a last-minute replacement that Jermell Charlo had to prepare for. Canelo understands he doesn't fight that way. So he's not going to have the same advantages that Matt Karabov had in that fight. In fact, Canelo Alvarez's style would be far more tailor-made for Charlo than a Matt Karabov. That's not guaranteeing that Charlo will win the fight, because that is a 50-50 fight, Charlo versus Canelo. See, this is something else we want you Canelo fans to understand. When you're a real boxing fan, it doesn't matter who will win the fight. You still want to see the fight. See, Canelo fans, they don't want to see the fight if they think there's a chance their guy's going to lose. Real boxing fans, they want to see the fight even if their guy is going to lose. I just want a conclusion to really see who is going to be the last man standing. Something else I want to say, speaking of when these Canelo Alvarez fans who always try to deflect the fact that it was Canelo that gave up his belt to avoid Charlo. Charlo didn't give up his belt to avoid anybody. Demetrius Andrade didn't give up his belt to avoid anybody. When they try to deflect like that and say, why don't they fight against each other? I want to make 2 points. Number one, if they were to fight against each other, if Canelo is not willing to fight them now, I highly doubt Canelo would get in the ring with a Demetrius Andrade if he beat Charlo, or a Jermell Charlo if he beat Demetrius Andrade. The second point I want to make is, once again, since it's you Canelo fans that are saying that Canelo is the best middleweight in the world, it makes all the sense in the world that Charlo and Demetrius Andrade would be going after the quote-unquote best middleweight in the world. By your own admission, you guys believe Canelo is the best. So once again, like I've been saying in previous videos, the difference from Charlo and Andrade versus Canelo and a Golovkin is Charlo and Andrade, they're going after the best middleweight in the world. Canelo and Golovkin, they're not. They're trying to avoid the best fighters in their division. Furthermore, if, let's say, Andrade were to beat Canelo, if, let's say, Canelo, he decided to fight Andrade. If Andrade beat Canelo, that would make an Andrade versus Jermell Charlo fight way bigger, because he actually beat the biggest star in the division. But at the same time, I still would like to see an Andrade versus Charlo fight. I would like to see it if Canelo is making it completely clear that he's not going to get in the ring with these monsters at all. Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing Charlo versus Demetrius Andrade. But once again, guys, when you hear these Canelo fans say this, let's make this very clear. This is not what Canelo is demanding. Canelo is not saying, I want to see them fight against each other. These are excuses and, once again, distractions that emotional Canelo Alvarez fans are coming up with. They're making excuses the guy they're defending is not even making or coming up with. What does Canelo Alvarez surrendering his belt to Charlo have to do with Charlo having to fight Demetrius Andrade? I'm going to keep saying it. If we know that Demetrius Andrade is calling out Charlo and Charlo doesn't want to fight Demetrius Andrade, what does that have to do with Canelo Alvarez fighting Demetrius Andrade? Absolutely nothing, right? The translation is clear when it comes to these fans. Charlo and Demetrius Andrade, they're too damn dangerous, and my guy might lose to him. So why don't they just leave our guy alone and go fight someone else? This is the exact same thing these fans did with Andre Ward calling out Gennady Golovkin. Golovkin said he'll fight anyone from 154 to 168. He started calling out fighters at 168, like Chavez Jr. and Carl Froch. But soon as the pound-for-pound king, the #1 best fighter in the world, Andre Ward, called him out, that's when he started to avoid Andre Ward. And the fans, they tried to create the same type of distractions that they're doing with Canelo. They start saying, well, why doesn't Andre Ward move up and fight against Kovalev instead of trying to fight Golovkin? But you know what's real funny? I just thought about it. Before Andre Ward was calling out Golovkin, Andre Ward was calling out Chavez Jr. The fans said the same thing. They said, why doesn't Andre Ward leave Chavez alone and go after Golovkin? And that's exactly what Andre Ward did. Once again, keep in mind, guys, the fighters are not saying this. This is what the fans are saying because they want to create a diversion. But going back to my point with Andre Ward, the point I was trying to make is Andre Ward, he did what the fans asked him to do, and he still didn't get the Golovkin fight. So what guarantee is it that when Charlo and Andrade fight against each other, they're going to get the Canelo fight? In fact, I think it's the complete contrary. Like I said earlier, if Andrade beats Charlo or if Charlo beats Andrade, they have even a tougher shot at getting a Canelo fight, because that would make the winner even more of a monster. At least that will definitely be Canelo's perception. So I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this video up. Once again, I want to shout out Looney Tunes Boxing. The artwork you're looking at, that's Looney Tunes Boxing. They do terrific work when it comes to boxing art, so make sure you support them and follow them on Instagram. That's all I got for now, guys. I'm on to the next one.